Hey everyone, it's Allie here, your host of Chords and Conversation. I'm so excited to be bringing this podcast back in 2026. On this episode of the podcast, I have Brooklyn-based artist Avi Dell on, and we have such a great engaging conversation. Just disclaimer, this episode was actually recorded back in late August, early September of 2025, and some of the files got corrupted. So I had to work with IT to get those back so that I can edit this episode and get it out. And then, work picked up. It was the holidays, so I had to put a pin in it, but I just came back and edited this episode a couple nights ago, and it was like, man, I'm so excited for this one to get out there because I feel like there's a lot of really good, engaging conversation about being a musician, being a singer-songwriter, how you get your content out in this new digital era and be unique and authentic. And there's songwriting, there's working as, the guy that does the monitors at clubs for artists who are performing. There's just so much. It's a really rich episode, and I'm really excited to finally be getting it out there. So thank you for bearing with us while we were on a brief hiatus, but I am hoping to get new episodes out, looking for musicians to come on the podcast. So if you are a musician, please reach out if you want to sit down and have a conversation. But without further ado, let's get into this episode of the podcast. I'm so excited. Enjoy. Avi, welcome to Chords and Conversation. Happy to have you here.
Thanks, Allie. It's great to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the conversation. You've been described as an artist for people who lean in, connect deeply, and want something authentic. What does authenticity mean to you in music?
Well, you're starting with a hardball. No warm-ups. What does authenticity? I think in today's day and age, one of the sort of my personal mantras of recent is the age of, what's the word? The age of the age of illusion, the age of mystique. Thank you. That's the word. The age of mystique is over. We are in an era of authenticity. Everything about the way social media and music and engagement and artists exist today is all about getting to the core of who a real person is. People are much less, I think, interested and engaged in this kind of rock and roll persona kind of thing. And so for me, my journey with music now is just all about how do I be as true to myself and as real as I can be. For example, I'm not hiding the fact that the microphone keeps falling down on me. And it's all okay. Yeah, I think for me, it's just about being real.
Awesome.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about what led you to step away from music and what brought you back? Because you did take a hiatus.
Yeah. So I had been a gigging musician for most of my life. From the age of 12 to 30, I chased music as hard as anyone I know ever has. I got to sign a production deal. I got to go on tour. I got to play in front of oceans of people in arenas and major stages in front of incredibly huge artists. And at the age of about 30, we were being offered a record deal and the whole thing fell apart. And it was unclear where things would go. And I basically had over the course of a long weekend, just kind of the line that I used to the band was, I've sobered to my ambition. And I just decided I don't want to do this anymore. I want to make music. I drifted so far away from why I was doing what I was doing, why I loved music, and why it was such a vehicle for me to express myself and create a world all into my sort of my own little fantasy world. And I just decided this isn't what I want. And I quit and I walked away from music. And for about 7 years, there was no music in my life at all. I didn't even own an instrument. I was walking kind of in a fog through life. I got married, I got divorced, I started grad school, I dropped out. I was like, I guess I need a real job. I went and tried to get real work in real places. And that always just felt like I was adrift in the world. And About 2 years ago, I moved back to the States. I was living in Europe, got COVID, had to isolate, and I just had a friend's guitar and I started strumming again. And like a fountain of creativity, all of this music poured out of me, all of these ideas. And I felt like, okay, I want to make a record. Like that's what I'm going to do. I know how to record a record. That's something I want to do. I was living in Brooklyn. I connected with this wonderful producer in Crown Heights, the home studio, and we went to work making music. And that was really all it was about. It was just, how can I make these songs and how can I do it in a way that feels authentic and real to me? Because I sort of had these stories to tell that I wanted to tell and I wanted to create. Wanted them. Initially, I even said, we're not going to do anything to a click. Like I wanted all to feel really live and really natural. And ultimately, we kind of found like a happy hybrid. We recorded everything to analog tape, which was this incredibly cool experience. And now the record is ready and done. And I've been releasing a song every month with a new song coming out this Friday.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah. And so you have a new album, Surrender, and it's described as a multimedia experience. Can you expand on that concept and what inspired that?
Yeah. So part of writing these songs, one of the things for me that was fun about writing these songs was that a challenge that I made for myself when I was isolating at home was, okay, if you're going to write these songs and you're going to really make a collection of songs, the commitment had to be threefold. Number one, I had to touch content I had never touched before. Number two, Avi, was not going to be really present in any of the songs. I was going to create characters and tell their stories, whether they were real people in my life or foreign people. But like me personally, Avi, I was going to try really hard not to do that. I don't know how well I succeeded, but that was kind of the idea. And then rule number three was that every song had to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. They needed to be like these stories. So here I am. I made this record. I've got 12 songs. We're in the midst of we're mixing them. We're getting masters back. Everything feels good. And I start thinking about, holy smokes, how am I going to promote this music? I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a following. I don't know anything about TikTok or social media. I haven't done this in 7-8 years. The world has changed so much in terms of how artists promote and connect to people who enjoy their work. And so I just felt like, I got to take a deep breath and kind of become a ninja of this process. So I thankfully had a bunch of old music that I hadn't released yet, and an old record that I actually just had been on Spotify that I took off. And for a year, I released a new song every month. And I sort of played around with social media, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, what do I get as a response? How does this feel? How do I turn this into a cadence for myself? How do I make commitments and promises to this process that I know how to keep? Those kind of things, right? Because we all, as social media people trying to be out there and do our thing, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this every day. And it's like, oh, well, no, I really can't do it every day. I fall off, I lose track, right? Yeah. How do I maintain these commitments? How do I choose a cadence and a process that's sustainable and that will work for me? And while I was figuring all of that out, I had a couple really awesome experiences connecting with some people, and social media just was working. And about November of last year, starting to plan, really thinking about Surrender, or the album, how can I bring this to life? And I was hanging out with my nieces and nephews who are all in their early teens. And all of them consume, I don't know if you have any people in your life that are around that age, but all of them consume everything through graphic novels. Even classics that I read in school, Of Mice and Men, they're reading in a graphic novel form. And I thought, okay, wait, that's a visual medium. That's something that connects to a younger audience. Wouldn't it be cool? All of these songs have clear beginning, middle, and ends. Wouldn't it be great if I could somehow create a graphic novel for each song? So that was again, just the ambition. So I leveraged my social media network, reaching out to different people, just a couple random searches on, graphic artists on Instagram, whatever that even means. And very early on, I connected with this incredible duo named Art by Courage, and they loved the idea. Initially, I was like, do you want to create a graphic novel for one or all of my songs? And very, very long story short, they were able to help me connect to a whole network of incredible artists. I want to say young, but not so young, people that are well established in their careers and in their fields, people who have done big graphic novels for major studios and major even illustrated films and animation and all sorts of stuff. I was able to connect to all of these people, and the ask was very simple. It was, I'm making a visual representation of this song. Have a listen. And if you connect to it, could you make a 2 to 5 page graphic comic? And it took about 4 months, happened really fast, and I got all 12. And it was
Crazy.
amazing. Yeah, it was really cool. I actually, if I'm being totally back to authenticity, just telling you the story, it reminds me of how incredibly cool this project is. And I feel like I'm 4 months in now. I've released 4 of them, and I feel like I'm totally falling short in really telling the story and really making it as cool as it could be. So that's kind of my own little to do as we talk here, is like, how do I walk away from this and like really up my game in terms of how I'm representing these artists and how I'm telling the story and, all of those sort of things. But maybe this conversation will help.
Where is that? Where can we find those?
Yeah, so it's all available at my website. So I'm releasing a new song every month, and with every song, I release the graphic novel. So on the first Friday of every month at my website, avidell.com, there's the new song, and then there's the new graphic novel. And
That's awesome.
so far I've done it where there's like a link to the artist. So you can go to the artist's website, you can go to their Instagram, connect with them. And then also like a little blurb about the story they're trying to tell. Because I really was not prescriptive at all. It was like, these are the lyrics, this is the song. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. I'm not going to give you any of my own stuff. I just want you to be moved by the song. And they're all wonderful. Some of them are really incredible. Obviously, there's always like favorites and ones that kind of really hit. And I'm so thankful for the process. It's been really cool.
So awesome. It's so unique. Well, Surrender and Home and Reckoning seem to be emotional centerpieces of your album. What is the story behind those tracks in particular?
Yeah. So Home and the Reckoning was the first release off the record. And so it's a song, it's a totally fictional song. It's just a story. Oh, and also in addition to this, just because we're talking about it, I'm also releasing a long form video of me just talking about, some of them are like 25, 30 minutes long. So if you're like really into the writing process, and I talk about the song, I talk about the writing process, I talk about the recording process, I talk a little bit about the graphic novel, and then kind of tie it all up in terms of like how it fits into the project. So there's a lot of content about Home and the Reckoning if you really want to dive deeply into it. But to tell it very succinctly, I had a friend who had shared with me a very personal experience of having a father who was abusive in the home. And I wanted to tell that story in a way that could feel authentic and honest. And so I really dove deeply into content that was not particularly my own experience, which is tough. It's tough when you kind of take that on, to think that you're going to write someone else's story and share that. But the through line through all of the songs is that there's somehow about familial relationships, somehow about like generational trauma and shared expectations. And I think my favorite line from that song is, the first is, reflecting on what kind of man, what kind of father was he? And then at the end of the song, it's what kind of man, what kind of father would I be? Sort of how do you take the life that you're given, the experiences that you're given, and how do we not become victims of our own circumstance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is something that was part of the process. Like, okay, it's not my story, but like there's immensely relatable themes. And I struggle with that all the time. I mean, I have a wonderful relationship with my father. There's things about him that I don't want to repeat. There are things about him that I do want to repeat that I'm not doing. And it's like, well, how did I miss that message? Well, how does he do anyway, those kind of things. That's where that song came from. And then Surrenderer is a totally different story, totally different theme, but it's a story about a fallen soldier in war. And when I was writing that, the first line that came out was, they were the last ones to surrender. Now they're the first we will remember. And I had to really pause and think, like, well, what is that? Okay, what is that? Like, what is that story about? Like, who is that? And I realized, I'm telling a story about a soldier who's fallen, and they're the last to surrender, and they're the first to remember. And I thought, should I write a story about recent wars, like something Afghanistan, Iraq, those kind of things. World War II was always so sexy. And it was like, I don't want to get political. I don't want to do anything that's going to be kind of polarizing. That's not what this is supposed to be, like a unifying idea. Say what you will politically or whatever may be. And so I was doing some research. I'd written a number of versions. I had written like a Vietnam version. I'd written a Korean War. I thought like nobody cares what the Korean War is not like a polarizing thing. Like I can kind of get into that. And then I was doing some research and I stumbled onto a handful of poems about World War One and trench warfare. I thought, oh man, that's really interesting, really cool. And so I borrowed some content from some literature that I had been able to find and relate to. And that's where that story came from.
Wow, that's really neat. And I was going to ask about like which war, and yeah, you
Yeah.
answered my question before I could even
Yeah.
get it out of my head.
And that was, if I'm being totally transparent, that was the one piece of feedback of all 12 graphic novels. Artist Dominic, who made the one for Surrenderer, was so phenomenal. But the soldier was like wearing a very modern uniform. And I was like, so I forgot to tell you, like the whole idea that it's World War One. Can you like? So he went back and he changed it, which I really appreciate. So that was the one piece of like, ooh, I kind of need to make sure this doesn't change. Anyway, so that was that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Well, fans have shared how much the pairings of music and visuals have meant to them. How does it feel to hear that your work resonates so deeply with people?
It's a process. It's a cool thing. That's why it's funny. I wouldn't say that I'm making music for other people. So much about this is just for me, like my own incredible itch that I just have to scratch. That's part of my like the healing process of those 7 years of not making music was I realized that I just need to be in it. As long as I'm creating, I'm happy. As long as I have something to be looking forward to, something new to be making, then I'm incredibly fulfilled. So I guess the answer is twofold. Like part of me doesn't really want to spend a whole lot of time thinking about how other people are interpreting this or taking it because I don't have time. Like who wants, like, it's a wonderful thing. And don't get me wrong, but like, and if I take in too much feedback, then that'll impact like my next thing. And I feel like that will kind of rob me of the joy and it'll become too narrow or like too much like bumper bowling, right? Like I want to be able to go to the gutter if that's how I'm feeling and not worry that like, oh, this other person who really enjoyed that other thing, like they might not like this gutter. Then that's not real, right? Then I will have kind of betrayed my own commitment. How has social media, if I can take your question and shift it a little bit, how has social media changed my relationship with making music? Immensely. And the ever present feedback is generally a vehicle for propulsion, which is good, like a source of energy and a source of drive. And what I've discovered so much about Instagram in particular is that like you get out what you put in so many ways, so I think people don't talk about that enough. Like we always look at any individual person's account or story, like in a moment of time. It's like, oh, they have X amount of followers, they have this many, but you don't realize like their emotional relationship to that journey is so deep and so nuanced. And so I just try to kind of keep my wits about me and realize that like I will get as much out of this as I put into it. And it will never be a passive thing. It always has to be something that I actively give to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you see yourself continuing or expanding this visual storytelling into future projects, or you just kind of, it was really nice to do it this time and maybe you'll do something different?
It was really nice to do this time. It was a really cool thing. I'm working currently on 3 more records that are like in like mid-production process right now. And each of them have like a cohesive through line, but none of them have like the beginning, middle, end storytelling kind of thing. All of my songs are stories, but like this particular collection of work, Surrenderer, really held true to that. And it was really laborious. It was hard to do. I had to be like really ruthless in the editing room and get rid of things that I really wanted. And a lot of the songs that didn't make it into the record were incredible songs, but just didn't have that clear through line of like beginning, middle, end. And so I'm working on those now on this new project. So like it clearly is not, it's a very, very different project. Those songs do not. And so I think they'd be harder for me to like give to an artist and be like, make this visually. They're like, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't really go anywhere in that way. One piece that I am thinking about that was actually the Art by Courage folks that really had this idea was, I haven't done this yet, but I don't know, maybe I will. And maybe there's someone out there who wants to help or be involved or whatever, but like take the song and then the graphic novel, and maybe give the graphic novel to a writer, an author, and have them write a short story.
Yeah.
Inspired
That sounds
alone by the graphic novel, not the song at all. Or maybe both or something. I don't know. See how it goes.
yeah.
But like, wouldn't that be cool? And just like find other people who are short story writers who are, there's a whole world and community of people who love to write short stories. Wouldn't it be cool to find those people and be like, here's a song, go and make a whole universe about this,
Yeah.
That would be fun. I was kind of inspired. One of the artists, I'm forgetting their name now, and so I don't want to say it, but one of the artists for one of the songs did just that, wrote like a whole short story to then explain their graphic novel, which is very cool. So I don't know. So maybe I'll do that, but I don't know. One of the things that's been so successful through the social media thing is like my Avi Dell store. Selling CDs, selling merchandise has really been incredibly successful, which is like wild to me. And so figuring out how to make those graphic novels available to people who might want them, whether they be in like poster form or whether I like go through and really print like a legit comic book, like a 40 or 50 page comic book that has each story one after the next. Like that would be a very cool thing. Like if I was, the only other band that I know that's done such a thing is, I'm sure many have. I'm sure it's not the most original, but like My Chemical Romance did something like that for Black Parade, which was like so cool, I don't know. It'd be a cool thing to do.
Yeah. I
I don't know,
mean,
any thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really neat and unique idea. And I mean, I can't think of any musician that's done anything like that before, with just like, hey, like, here's my album. Let's make a whole, book or short story about this. Just like, that's a really unique idea.
Could be cool. It could be
could
really,
be
really cool. Yeah. The problem, Allie, is that like as an artist, I'm like so on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like it's really great that I could promote. Like I was shooting some lip sync footage with my fiance Rachel yesterday for the song that comes out on Friday called Scream Out Loud. And Allie, I haven't listened to or played or thought about Scream Out Loud in like months. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, shoot, like it's this weekend. I have to like make some content. And so we like set up the camera and like got the lighting and like did some stuff. And at the end, I was like, this song is so dope. Like I love this song, but like I'm kind of already past it. Like I'm already working on so much other material, which is maybe not something, but again, back to the whole authenticity thing. Like that just is my cadence as an artist and what I need to be doing to be staying 6 to 8 months ahead of myself with content so that I know that I can maintain the cadence that I've established.
Yeah. Are you playing shows, doing any like live
Very
concerts
little.
to promote?
Very, very little. I'm available and I'm booking private house concerts. I've done a few. It's been really wonderful. My plan is to book a bunch next summer. I'd really like to do like weekends out. Like I'd love to book like May, June, July, August, every weekend, go out, do like a Friday night, Saturday night gig in people's homes. That's really what I want to be doing. With my old band, I had a lot of success playing house shows. It was really fun. It's really intimate. Have you ever been to a house concert?
I have. You know what? I have never been to a house concert. I need to.
It's a really, really cool thing. I mean, it's just like, imagine you in your living room or in like a friend's space or whatever. You just invite like 10 or 15 friends. That's it. Who really love music. Give them the art, let's say give them my record and give them my Instagram account and be like, this is who's coming. He's going to hang out with you an hour before the show. Like come, like we'll like pop a couple bottles of wine, have some beer, hang out. Everyone shows up. You sit down. You don't need a microphone. You don't need volume. You don't need anything. Just me and my acoustic guitar. And I just, for an hour, kind of storyteller, songwriter, I kind of, share the songs, give a little feedback, a little snippet into what this was, what the process was, what the writing was, and then I perform it. And it's such an incredible way to connect to people personally and get feedback immediately. It's really, really fun. So I'm available to do that. House concerts, big time. I haven't really wanted to do any other gigging just yet in any real way because I know what a slippery slope that is for me, like emotionally, because once I get that piece of my brain moving, I can't turn it off. It's really hard for me. And I know what touring is. I've done it. And I've been so lucky. As I said earlier, like I've been so blessed to like be able to go out and perform in front of oceans of people. And I know what it's like to sell out rooms to people who are there to see me sing my songs. Like I know what that like ego trip feels like and all of those things. And it's wonderful, but it's not at this stage of my life sustainable. And so until I'm really ready to make it a sustainable piece of my life, I don't want to play, I don't want to play like Russian roulette with it. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
No, and I think it goes back to the authenticity that we talked about at the beginning, is that, like this is what works for you, and just staying true to yourself and making sure that music stays feeling good.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something, the live show is just like a whole different piece of the puzzle.
Right. But you said that you didn't come back to music to pick up where you left off. We've kind of established that through this interview so far, but you wanted to start from someplace new. How has your relationship with music changed since your return? We've kind of talked a little bit about that just in the last couple of minutes, but if you want to expand on that a little bit more.
Sure. The thought that comes to mind is, and I don't know, maybe this is for other songwriters who may enjoy this or be watching this or be interested in my process, but like I used to believe that like a single song would change my life, And so when writing that song, I'd become totally fixated on needing that song to be perfect. And so it did a number of things. This is earlier in my career, right? Like from my teens up through my 20s. And so what it meant was that I was way too precious with ideas, way too precious with production, with arrangements. What I've learned is that like really the answer to my own desire is volume. Like just make songs, and do not spend so much time belaboring every single idea, every single thought. Trust that like you're a good thought creator. More good thoughts will come. Like this is not the only thought you're ever going to have. Let it be what it is now. Do not make yourself crazy trying to make it perfect. Like that, actually, I was just in Nashville 2 weeks ago with Arctic Snow, who I have a collaboration with. It's all available on Instagram and Spotify and wherever music streams. Lynn Takritam is the producer for that, and he's the initial songwriter, and we bounce ideas back and forth. He was the bass player in my band in Chicago. He now lives in Florida. I'm in New York, and so we like just email back and forth with ideas. And almost all the songs are new songs. But there's one song called Fire that was like an old song that we had written together in Chicago, and was a song that we loved to play live. It was like an absolute crowd pleaser. People loved it. And we never recorded it because we could never get it perfect in the studio. We tried. We really did. And like we scrapped the idea. We had tons of demo versions of it. And we just recorded it 2 weeks ago. Because I was like, enough being so precious with this. Like, let's just get it into the world. Like, put it into the world and let people find it. And if it's as good as we thought it was, it'll find an audience. And if not, c'est la vie. Like keep moving. There's no use in like getting stuck in the mud over one idea. I think a lot of people romanticize that. And it might be true for some people, but for me, it's got to be volume. I'm a voluminous writer. It's just I can take this guitar off of this wall and write you a song right now. Like, and not think about it. Like and that's kind of, I think, part of my maturity as being like an adult who makes music is like, I deeply, deeply trust that when I sit down with my guitar, something original and beautiful will arrive. And I don't have to worry that if I don't capture it right this moment, I'll lose it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you have roots in Brooklyn and NYC, as well as a deep connection to Pittsburgh. How have those places shaped you as an artist?
In so many ways. I'll give you the quick rundown. I grew up in Pittsburgh. Then I moved to Israel. Then I moved back to the States. I got my degree in Israel. Then I studied back in the States. I moved to Chicago because I got a production deal with an incredible artist, Steve Gillis, the drummer and co-founder of the band Filter, who's like, by every measure of every rule, an absolute rock star. And he started his own production company and studio in Chicago. Got to make records with him, which was amazing. Then I moved back to Israel for a time. Then I lived in Berlin in Germany for 4 years. And then I moved to New York. And I think all of those places, everywhere that I've lived, has deeply influenced and impacted the way that I write and how I think about my art. Pittsburgh is wonderful because it's home and it will always be home. And quite frankly, I feel like anyone from Pittsburgh it's like our little secret. We try not to tell people how wonderful Pittsburgh is because we don't want you there. Stay out. We don't need your traffic. Like Pittsburgh is an incredible, I joke, Pittsburgh has everything a major city has to offer except the traffic and the pretension. Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel like I need to visit Pittsburgh. I won't move there, but I feel like I need to visit there.
No one else.
Okay. I got the approval. Good. But yeah, because one of my previous guests is from Pittsburgh area, well, Bill Vernon. And I'm like, I've got to go see one of your guys' hometown shows there. I think that would be so awesome to experience that. And I enjoy a little travel for music. So perfect segue, though. You spent some time working at Mr. Small's music venue, which is in Pittsburgh, and crossed paths with some incredible artists. Do you have any, like, a favorite story from that time?
I have so many stories from that time. I'll tell a punchline story. I was reminded so Fall Out Boy came through and played, and Punchline opened for them. And I remember it was early in my time there at Mr. Small's, and I was only just doing monitors. So when you're like the monitor engineer, that means that like you are responsible for everything that the musicians are hearing back to them. Mm-hmm. So it's like if you ever see a show and they're like, I need more, like I can't hear my voice, like turn up my voice. Like that's not telling the front of house guy to turn up his voice in the audience. It's when you're on the stage and you're kind of in this like fishbowl of your own music, you're telling the monitor guy, hey, turn me up in my monitor. So that was what I got to do, which was so fun, which meant that like I really did interact with all of these bands that came through in a very like personal way. And, before they'd go up, it'd be like, what do you want to hear? Like, how much of yourself do you need? Anyway, I just remember Fall Out Boy was a really new band. But Fall Out Boy spent very, very little time being a small band. Like they really went like straight boom, boom. And they had the first time I ever saw them come through, it was like this firehouse outside of Pittsburgh. This buddy of mine called me and said, I'm bringing this band into town. They're like from Chicago, but they've been playing shows like at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor a bunch. And I went, I saw them with there were like 15 people in the room. It was very cool. And they were very good, but it was like, wow, that 15 was like nobody was there. And then like 6 months later, they came through, sold out show at Mr. Punchline, local Pittsburgh favorite band, was opening for them. They got on stage. Punchline played and finished, and they got on stage. And I just remember Pete getting on and saying something about like in this industry where there's so much focus on being cool and like being fashionable, Punchline just has stayed so true to who they are and what they are and never worried about like the zeitgeist. He did not use the word zeitgeist, but like the zeitgeist of like what is cool, like chasing cool and like And I just hope for like our band that we can like look at Punchline as an example and remember that lesson. I remember him saying that. Something like that. I don't know. I mean, it'd be funny to ask Pete if he like, I don't think they've maintained that at all. I think they're totally a zeitgeist band. And they've like, they've been very successful at like leading the world at what is cool and what isn't cool. But anyway, that's a very long-winded story. But I also remember in doing sound for them, and I think they'd probably agree with this, it was absolute chaos. The only thing that made any sense on that stage was the drums and Pete's guitar playing. Everything else, Patrick's guitar playing, bass, and the other guy's guitar playing. I forget his name now. What is his name? Like Andrew or something? Joe. Thank you. Joe's guitar playing was in like they weren't even playing. They weren't even playing. Like, it was just like, if you like soloed just the guitar, it was just like it was insane. It was, they just were riding on sheer energy and excitement. Yeah. And just Patrick's voice and those melodies were just so undeniably good that music took off. Yeah. Sounds cool. That was like, sorry, that's like a cool memory. I can wax poetic on just about every show I ever saw there. Yeah. I had a lot of thoughts, but that was a fun one. Yeah.
Well, you shared the stage with artists like Childish Gambino, Group Love, Ryan Adams. What's a standout moment from those experiences?
So many memories. I don't want to be, my mind immediately went to something that was one of the propelling reasons as to why I quit music, which was we were backstage with Group Love, and one of the guys in the band was being very friendly and talking and whatever. And he was just, all he could talk about was how broke he was and how broke they all were and how like they were struggling so much financially, and like one of them was married and hadn't seen his kids, and like, and just how hard life on the road was. And this was like when this was like when Group of Love was like the biggest they've ever been, like when they had songs, being placed and all over the place. And like, and I just remember being like so sad for that life and thinking like, oh man, I don't think I want that for my life. I don't think I want that to be my life. It just echoed in my ears for a couple more years before I decided to walk away from that particular project and that like trajectory that I was on. But yeah, I remember that being tough. They then got on stage and like totally lit the place on fire. It was incredible. And it was like, oh, this is why they do what they do. They're addicted to that. They're addicted to that
Yeah.
feeling, addicted to that life. And that's what, like what I said to you earlier was like, I know what will happen to me when I open that piece of my brain and my heart and my life to go out and be on the road. And I just want to make sure that when I do it, that it's really sustainable and that it's
Yeah.
not just like something I go out and do too early. I'm prepared to do a lot of things really early and fleeting, and with the hope that if I do it enough, it'll work. But like the live show thing is it's too all encompassing. And what people never talk about is just like how much dead time is, like how much of your life you lose because you're
Mhm.
just between two places. And that's
Right.
just a really hard way to live
Yeah.
and have any kind of meaningful relationships with anyone other than the people in the band.
Right.
So it's hard. And if you're not making money doing it, you're not like sending fat checks home, then it's like you
Yeah.
live with it. It's like, all right, like okay, you're married to one of the Foo Fighters. Like, okay, like we're all driving Maseratis and like life is good. But like even bands that we think of as big bands that like they're ever like, oh, it's like they, especially with like the old record deal model, like it's hard to make a living. It's hard to make a living.
Yeah. It definitely is. I think that's why it's like it's got to be somebody's passion to be able to go out and make music, cuz even if you're not touring and that's expensive, um it still costs money to make music, to get a, recording studio and those different
Sure.
types of things, it's got to be something that you're so passionate about to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And it starts as passion. It always starts as passion. But like my experience in meeting so many people and spending afternoons with so many artists as they come through is that like what starts as a passion turns into a prison. And that's a really scary thing, to have both
Yeah.
seen that, to have like, sort of idolized that, and then to get to be that and realize that like it's a house of cards.
Yeah.
And it's never, no, that like to me is the reality and the authenticity I think that I bring to this project, and realize that I'm only going to do it when it makes sense.
For someone just discovering your music, which track do you think best represents who you are as an artist right now?
I ask myself that question all the time. I usually have to pick three. I don't have like an easy answer. Right? It's like asking someone, which of their children is their favorite. It's like that's not a question that I can answer. I'd love to know what you think, if you have a thought on that. But no, I can't even, I wouldn't touch that question with a 10-foot pole. Let someone else decide.
Yeah. Okay. Well, finally, what's the best way for fans to connect with you and follow along with the Surrender journey?
Just Avi Dell music on Instagram. avidell.com is probably the best. AVIDELL. It's flashing on the screen right now. avidell.com. That's the best, because then that's just like a jump off to any, so whatever, pick your poison, whatever social media, whatever streaming service you're into. And then the thing that I really push is my mailing list. That's really, if you're interested in not only the music, but the process, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I've tried really hard to keep up with my mailing list and provide content that's like not It's not a ton. Sometimes it's just like 5 to 10 sentences of just like what's going on, what I'm working on. That's, I think, the best way to just kind of stay in the know of what's happening with my projects and the ways that I'm building my universe as a musician.
We'll definitely include some links to all of that. And then thank you so much for sharing and giving us a peek into the world of how you're creating
Yeah.
music now. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Chords and Conversation. Like I said, Avi was just such an interesting guest to have on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the episodes so that you're getting them regularly. And I appreciate it so much. I will see you next time for the next episode of Chords and Conversation.